I always try and look at how other people teach. And why did they connect with that person? How did they? I always, if someone like in the league now is playing really good, like I want to meet their coach. Like if it's a group of people that are playing, I want to meet the coach because I'm like, why are they playing so well? You know?
Yeah. What is it?
Yeah.
So the coaching journey begins. Your first opportunity post-playing career at the London
Warriors.
Yeah. And then you're coaching there. Where does the opportunity arise for an NFL coaching job?
So it was like I was coaching the Warriors, and it was probably it's probably one of my funnest times coaching.
Why is that?
The people, the way they played, the style they played with, it was everything I believed in. So it was like, it was just cool. Like the people, coaching was different to playing because when you played, every time you jumped up a level, you didn't no one could recreate what a good play, like the speed of the game. No one could really recreate what an unreal player looks like or a playbook, or they couldn't, everything that you was exposed to, like I said before, it was like you was literally like newborn baby. But coach is not like that. I had excellent examples of coaches. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yes.
So like you get exposed to those things, and I don't know, coaching was a lot more natural to me than playing, if that makes sense. So I was coaching the Warriors, and it was a conscious decision. So I actually approached the NFL in London and said, would it be possible to get on a Bill Walsh program? I remember like the Warriors, they got a small sponsorship from someone, I can't remember, British Airways I think it was, to go to take to some of the kids to fly out to Texas to go and look around schools and work out for schools. And I just wasn't working at the time. I just finished working, and I was like, I'll go and chaperone them. And I went, and the PR guy from the Cowboys, he was there, and I met him for breakfast one time, and he was like, bring the kids over to practice. I could meet Jason Garrett, could meet all the guys, and so I brought him, but as we was talking, he was like, what are you doing? I said, I'm actually applied. And he was like, well, why didn't you apply to us? I was like, like, oh yeah, why don't I just do that? Yeah, like, so he's like, bring your resume. And then when I got there, like he actually told me like, wear nice clothes. I didn't have none. I actually went and bought some, like in Texas, yeah. And so I went, and then he was like, the night before he texted me, he was like, oh, I've got you an interview. So I actually went and interviewed with a guy called Jerome Henderson, who's an extremely close friend of mine now. And I left that interview, and they offered me the job, the internship. And kind of, that was it. It was game on. So kick back, like when I took those kids to Dallas.
To Dallas, yep.
A week before then, F.A. had turned up to practice.
F.A. Obata?
Yeah, sorry.
Yep.
And I went, and I was in Dallas, and then they had like a workout for these defensive ends, like the street free agents that are coming in training camp. And I looked at it and I thought, I know some kids in Europe that are better than this. He was one of the first kids that came to my mind. And I was telling I don't know what his actual role was, Will McClay at the Cowboys, and he was like, oh, you should send me some film. And so I went back. I'd been pitching to the NFL about like opening like an academy. And they ended up giving me a job, and that wasn't for necessarily anything to do with coaching. It was to do with starting a flag football program in London. And but I was allowed to carry on, like, so I'd spoken to Dallas and I was training FA, and I was allowed to carry on training FA in the mornings while I'd done my other job. So we done that, and FA ended up signing, that's his story, but he ended up signing for Dallas. When I got back from Dallas, there was a new person at work, and it was Osi. So like, I sat down, his desk was right next to mine, and like, we started talking about finding football players, and it kind of like, this is a huge part of, I would say, the reason why I'm here. There's lots of reasons, but like, so when I sat down and then FA got signed, like as much as I've helped FA's career, FA's helped my career.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
I feel like we're very connected in a way that we started off, and like the opportunities that hopefully he thinks I gave him, and he definitely gave me opportunities, you know. So going back, I ended up meeting OC, we kind of like panned this whole thing out, and it was like, could we do this as a program? Can we find players? Because they had like the IPP before, like I was part of it.
Yep.
So like I knew if we were gonna do this, me and OC wanted to create it in a way that it wasn't to put players on NFL teams, it was to create NFL players, and I think that's a different thing. Like I feel like when I played, no one thought I could play.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't think, not necessarily, and this isn't a slight on anyone, I don't think it's hard to think people can do something if no one's done it.
Right.
You know, like,
yeah.
Like, so to do all those things are hard to when you have to do it outside of people's beliefs. So we wanted to create an environment where it was belief, and it was like, you've got to learn how to do all those things, invest in all the things you've been asking me about. How do you do these things? How do you teach them? So it was creating a program like that, and we actually ended up finding 2 guys, and now the program, like Will and those guys, have gone on to like do an amazing job. We found Jordan and all those guys, you know. So like when we went through that, I was coaching the guys.
Mm-hmm.
So that helped me because I had to coach lots of different positions. So I had to learn how to coach things that I didn't really know through my eyes because I never played them, you know? So I had to gain experience from people. I would get guys, like we was lucky where we was coaching the guys, there was a lot of NFL players training. So I would get them to be involved and work with them and talk to them, ask them questions, learn off those guys. I think when you meet players that can explain what they do, there's so much to be learned.
When you were a player, you know, you had this imposter syndrome to a certain extent. But one thing you said as a coach, you didn't say you had that because you had examples of people, like you said, you knew you could do it. Have you always felt that as a coach, like, I know I can do this, I know I belong? Yeah,
100%. I think teaching is about, it's not what you know, it's what you can get these people to know. And like when you do football, it's what the people can do. Because the output is it's a lot mental, but it's also physical. I've had a lot of examples of that throughout everything, through schooling. Like I wasn't the best in school, so I got to meet, like it's funny, like the special ed teachers that I was with, they were the best teachers because they knew how to teach the kids that didn't want to be there. It was their choice not to, you know, they did not choose, like, and I learned off, like now thinking about it, I learned off those people. I didn't think I was learning at the time. Like how to create relationships, how to make people trust you, like build trust. I don't think people necessarily, that takes time and consistency, but like put that in and what's important, like those things that are important. I think that's important, and I always want to know why. Why are you, if you want it, like if you're telling me to do something, why am I doing it? I always try and look at how other people teach and why did they connect with that person? How did they? I always, if someone like in the league now is playing really good, like I want to meet their coach. Like if it's a group of people that are playing, I want to meet the coach because I'm like, why are they playing so well? You know?
What is it? Coaching is all about trust, and how have you established and built the trust with the players? What have you done to earn their trust?
To me, coaching you got to have some unconditional love, because it's not, if I don't have that, how can I believe in you? Like, because I think it's belief. Like, I think ultimately it's all belief. Like, and people might not feel it, and they might feel it, but I try and believe in the players as much as I possibly can, or the role that they have. So like different players have different roles.
Absolutely.
And I think if you create that, and because not everyone is the guy, you know? And if you're even the guy, you have a role.
You still got a role.
Your role's just bigger, you know? Like,
the role is, you're that guy.
I think I try and believe in their role while they're with you. So, because I feel if I lose that, the transparency goes and the truth goes. Like, I think if you're authentic and you have those things, it's not, like, trust will be built over time, but I think a key factor of trust is that people know what to expect from you. If you're the same all the time, then they know that you're not trying to be one way, 1 week the other. Like, you're the same. And I think if you can keep that consistency, you've got a good chance to build trust.
And you talk about Dan Quinn and your relationship with him and how significant it is. I've seen it. I've seen you two together. I saw him when he was in Atlanta and he was talking to you and he was stating he can't wait to get you back.
Yeah, so the way I got to Atlanta was kind of funny too, is that, so I'd been in Dallas for 2 years doing the internship and whilst working on the IPP. And then Jerome took a job with Atlanta. So he was like, what are you doing for an internship? And I was actually talking to the Jags about doing an internship and or maybe going back to Dallas, but I wanted to kind of go to a new team, see a different way of doing something and try and expand what I was learning, you know? Like, because as you get into things, like, it's like you're there, so you want to give everything to that. And then as you get a little bit more insight, you want to expand. Then I got to a place where I wanted to expand. So he was like, oh, you got to meet Dan Quinn. Like, he's a great coach to learn. The coach was amazing. So he actually told Dan about me. And I went and met Dan and Thomas, the GM, and Scott Pioli in the Combine. I was working on the IPP and I flew up to the Combine and I sat with them for a bit and they said, would you be interested? Why would you? They kind of done like a mini interview. And at the end of it, they was like, would you be interested in doing it? I was like, yeah, I would love to do it. So we kind of, in the end, they did offer me an internship. And when I got there, it was like, for again, the OTAs, the whole of spring and the whole of training camp. And then the next year I ended up working with the linebackers with a guy called Jeff Ulbrich, who had like one of the biggest impacts. Like DQ, like, and Jeff and Ra, like, they had huge impacts on the way I think about coaching and the things I do. Like, I learned a lot of those guys.
What was one of the major keys? I mean, I know it's many, but
the impact was that they reaffirmed that these things are really important, like the connection with people.
Yeah, what you talked about earlier.
The teaching. Like, Brick's one of the best teachers that I've been around by far. Like, I spoke about,
and he's a great player.
He done exactly the same thing. Like, he like made me think about the way I coach and the way I talk when I'm installing and why do we do the things and how can people connect certain words to the moment in time so they can play faster. Do you know, like, so the whole teaching process. So I got to work with Brick and then I went, so I'd interned for 4 years.
Wow.
And then I'd been building the IPP on the side. Well, not on the side, I mean intern on the side and building the IPP is my real job. And then we was on the IPP, and this is actually a funny story. So, like, Kate and Dylan were with me, that's my wife and my son, they were with me. And Q called me and he offered me a job. And I was like, wow. Like, I can specifically remember the day we was down in Sarasota. And like, he was like, talk to Kate about it, see if you guys want to do it, because obviously you're moving.
This is a big change.
You know, like,
country.
You're moving country, but it's also everything you've worked towards.
Yeah.
Now I think back on it and reflect back on it, I think I had to do, I wanted to coach in the NFL, but I had to do it with the right person or the right people. And DQ was the right guy. Like, so he called me, and then the next day, like, he was like, I'll give you a couple of days. He called me like the next morning with Brick and Ron on the phone. He's like,
what are we doing here?
Me and Dylan was driving to an IPP practice, and he was like, I picked up the phone, he's like, boy, you can take it? and like, Dylan was sitting there, and we was driving down the street, and we was driving past a Dairy Queen, and Dylan was like, DQ, it's a sign, take the job. So, like, yeah, I ended up taking it, and then kind of, that was it. I'd done that for 1 year. And then I think I became the outside linebackers coach, and I worked with the defensive ends for 1 year. And then I went back and coached with the linebackers. And then I ended up going to Dallas.
How do you manage all these different personalities?
You let them be who they are.
That's the key.
I think, like, you let them be exactly who they are. And I think if people are who they are, then they are comfortable. I think if you have to try and make someone change who they are, then they can't be, like, part of who they are is the reason why they're there.
That's a fact.
You know,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
like their attitude towards life, like I think that's the key, is you just let the people be who they are.
So we're talking about managing personalities, big personalities. You're coaching one of the best players in the NFL, Micah Parsons. I mean, he might, but when he's done, this guy could be one of the greatest all times. Seems to have a personality that can light up a room. How is it coaching him?
Fun. It's good fun. He's fun to coach. He's good, you know, like, and he makes coaching easy. He's a good player. But no, it's I haven't. He came like in our room kind of week 10, but like, yeah, it was fun. I enjoy working with him.
When you got a player or person that talented, as a coach, as a teacher, like, what do you do? What's your go-to approach?
Not slow them down. Especially like he's extreme. Like his situation is quite unique. He plays multiple positions, so with him it's very much like while he's learning, what will slow him down versus what will not, and what can he just do, you know? So I think there's a lot. Me and DQ have a lot of conversations about that, you know. So, but it's fun. It really makes you think. He's a good competitor, but it's fun coaching everyone. I'm lucky because the defensive line at Cowboys is just great guys, and it's like I enjoy coming to work every day.
Yeah. So. They dominate too. That doesn't hurt.
They dominate. They got dominant personalities. So.
Well, you're the guy to manage that. But I'll tell you this, man. I know you're a guy that likes being present, you know, in the moment, focused on where you are. But I want to talk about the future, man. What does it look like? Next year is next year. You got to go out and do what you got to do. But what does the future hold for you? What is your next moves? What are you thinking about?
Being good this year. Like, yeah, just being good this year. I think for my personal mindset, it's good that I stay in the moment.
Yeah.
I think I try and shift my focus to the present task. Yeah. And I feel like if I do that, then I'm very capable of achieving that task. It's very hard to put a task in front of me that I can't affect the outcome of right now, you know? Because that's when I've made mistakes, when I try and get somewhere where I'm dealing 2 years in front. You know, how can I do that? Because I'm not, yeah, you can have a vision and things like that, but the coaching world it's so volatile. The only control I have is the D-line and my responsibilities within the defense. And I think if I do that for the Cowboys, we got a chance to be successful. The D-line are a big part of football, you know? So that's why I love coaching them, because you can dictate games at times, you know? So, but I know it's not the answer you necessarily want to hear, but I think it's hard for me to kind of push my mind to somewhere that is so far away from what I am right now. Like, I'm still learning, and I want to learn. Like, can I do all the things that are ahead? I hope so, but I've got lots to learn.
Through this whole conversation, you know, I picked up how you've always invested in yourself. You've always pushed yourself. You've demanded things from yourself. You've been in the present, which is the only thing you can control, right?
Yeah.
What am I doing now that will kind of dictate my future? Well, this is all about investing in yourself and what you're doing. And now that you have gotten to the situation, you're doing well, making good money. How are you investing that for the future? What are you doing?
Learning that too. Learning that too very quickly, you know. But the investment has come in the reflection. You know, if I really think about it, that's constantly what I'm trying to do, is like look back and see, like, is this year, how can we be better than last year? Where are the parts of the game that we have to grow in, okay? Personnel-wise, system-wise, teaching. You know, there's like, how can we be better? That's constantly how I think about it.
What are the next steps? What do we have to do here to continue to see the growth so we see the next FAs, we see the next Adens?
I would say the education of people, like within the growth of football. If you're asking me about specific football, I think at this level, like at the grassroots level, like investment in teaching for the coaches as well, not just the players, but the coaching. I think at times equipment for the players. I think access to equipment is always hard because it costs a lot of money. You know, it's a sport that costs a lot of money to do. I also think like the quarterback position needs to be developed. Like if you're really like drilling down into it, I think the more access for people to have like camps for quarterbacks and things, because you play, if kids want to play the game, they play it because they really want to enjoy it. You need someone to distribute the ball. Do you know, like,
absolutely.
Because if you play receiver and all you do is run the ball, that game ain't fun. You know, but I think those things, and I think growth is like, the guys are doing it. Like OC is like, look in Africa what OC's doing.
Amazing.
It's amazing. All these different things, because there's people out in Europe and here that are working with nothing and doing amazing jobs. You know, like I really learned how to coach at the Warriors. If I, like, you talk about managing people, those kids were exactly the same mindset as the kids I work with now. You know, they're just, one gets paid a lot of money and one was paying to play, you know, like, but when you really like strip down the people, they were very similar, you know, like in the way they thought, their background and what they needed to do to grow, and you could support them with to help them be successful. So there's people doing that now, and I think getting them opportunities would be huge. I would love to see that.
Well, it looks like you got to start something else.
Yeah.
You've had your fingerprint on everything else. Looks like we got another one, man, right there. Because as you were talking, I was like, that sounds like a great program.
Yeah, I think that's what they should do.
Your next move, man.
I would love that.
I love it, man. I appreciate you having the patience to come out here on this journey, man. I've known you a long time, but I've learned more. So everybody else gets more access to your brain, brother. Thank you, man.